Good morning, everyone. How's everyone feeling today? All right, I'm in a little bit more energy than I've spent all week in prisons. How's everyone feeling today? There we go. All right. This is the moment when I get on stage and think maybe I really should have got some slides, because I feel a little bit of a way after that. When Alex came to me and said, Whitney, what is the one thing that you really want to speak about? What is the thing that you really think can change the world? I immediately thought, violence. See, I'm passionate about people. Children and young people, to be more specific, but overall, most people I find really interesting. And about 9 years ago, when my generic youth work career took a turn into serious youth violence, I became so extremely passionate about violence. I wanted to know why people were violent, how they were violent, and what that violence means and symbolizes. I think now it's safe to say I'm verging on a bit obsessive with violence, but you'll get used to it. And 3-4 years ago, I was invited into the prison system to start working with some of our children that are locked up, basically. And I wanted to know what had really led them to this point. How can a child be in prison? What's the thinking? What's the mentality? And the more that I started to hear their stories and sit down and listen, I came up with my own theory. Violence is everywhere. And that sounds a bit mad at first, and I understand that my thinking can be a bit extreme. But I just started to see violence just everywhere. But it wasn't the case of everything was a physical violence and everyone was going around hitting people and, doing what they do. I was very much aware that violence was around us, spiritually and psychologically. It was there in our day-to-day routines. And actually, all of us are responsible for violence. Now, when I normally say that, everyone goes, hey, not me. When I first started thinking about it, I was like, it's not me, that's not what I do. But then I started to really collect my thoughts around this. And I thought, these violent acts are coming from what I would consider very unhealthy thinking and very unhealthy thinking patterns. So I thought about it for a little bit and I said, well, there's no point of us always going and looking at how we prevent violence when the violence has already happened or trying to stop more violence from occurring. I thought, how can we actually start promoting healthy thinking patterns? If the unhealthy thinking is the reason for the violence, then we need to start looking at how we develop healthy thinking. Now, healthy thinking to me is very different from positive thinking. I don't get up and try to do motivational speaks and all that kind of stuff. See, healthy thinking to me is about being authentic in what you're feeling at that moment. And really doing some soul searching for where the negative feelings come from, where the negative thoughts or the negative behavior patterns are. My kind of analogy for this is, some days I feel like rubbish. And it's okay. And when I feel like rubbish, I'm really going to embrace that rubbish feeling. I'm probably going to get into bed, I'm going to watch a few movies, the really sad ones, and I'm just going to really just be there with my rubbish feeling. And we all have those days, yeah? Just embrace the rubbish feeling. But if I felt like rubbish day in, day out, then that's what I would consider a little bit unhealthy. That's where I'm going to have to start thinking, what's really going on? And how do I get myself out of these patterns? And what I also noticed was that this unhealthy thinking can really creep into our day-to-day life without us even knowing it. If I said to you, think of a time when you thought unhealthy. No? Okay. Well, my favorite one at the moment, this is me all day, every day, is I'm going to go for a run tomorrow. Yeah, are you? I'm going to start training again next week. See, I know it's good for me. I know I should be doing it, but I also know every single excuse in the book to get myself out of it. But if I was to see someone I didn't like getting in an elevator, all of a sudden I'd be the person that's most up for the exercise. I'm just taking the stairs. I've just exercised, And it's all about the context of the situation. And I started thinking, where else is this unhealthy thinking pattern seeping into my life? Now think about the time you last had an argument or someone really, really got under your skin. Are you thinking about it? All right, there we go. What if I was to tell you that these feelings had absolutely nothing to do with them? That these feelings can only occur, that anger, that complete, I'm trying not to swear on stage. It only comes, when people make you feel upset or angry or down, it comes from a feeling that is already there inside of you. You have to already have that for someone to trigger it and release it in you. So I started really looking at myself and trying to understand what is really going on underneath the surface. And it was all about empowerment. So nothing you can say can bother me anymore. I can walk down the street, I can walk through 600 males in the middle of a prison, and it's nothing about any of you anymore. It's about me and how I feel about myself and being authentic in my feelings. And where these feelings come from and how I can really use these to better myself and move forward. Now, coming back to the violence. I work with young people in prison for very serious offences. I remember one young man. I went to see him on the wings one day and he was behind his cell door. Now you have to think, most of my young men are probably 6 foot plus. I'm in heels, normally I'm about 5'2". A cell door is a huge big piece of metal, so sometimes I can't get them out, so I have to speak to them through the door. So it's me, big door, big young man on the other side of the door. And he was angry. And I was like, what's wrong? He was like, no, I'm vexed. That was a good impression, right? And he was just angry, and I said, what's going on? Like, talk to me. He's like, no, wait, like, they messed up my gym schedule. I was supposed to go to gym, but now I'm here. I was like, all right, but what are you feeling? Explain to me, talk to me. I said, I'm angry, innit? No. We've been working together for a long time, so I can challenge him. No. What are you feeling? And he stopped for a little bit, and he started to think. And he said, it's hopelessness, isn't it? I said, there we go. Why? What is that tapping into in there? What's really going on? Because we both know you're a strong man and it's nothing to do with this person that's making you feel like that. I know you're not going to give your power over to someone else like that. So we started doing a bit more research into it. And when I really pushed him, and I mean really, really pushed him, I said, what's it reminding you of? What are you thinking about? He said, see, my dad always used to say he was going to come and pick me up and never turn up. And in that moment, he had identified the feeling, the trigger that was about to get him to kick off in the prison. And when he was going to kick off, he can kick off and do some damage. But because he was able to see that, he was then able to make a choice and say, nah, let me do the work on me first. And this is what I mean about how powerful it can be when we really start to understand ourselves and understand our healthy thinking patterns, and how we all have to promote a healthy thinking pattern because it is our children that watch us. So then if we're looking to change our jobs and looking to get a promotion and there's opportunities available for us and we just don't take them, what are we telling our children? So imagine a world where everyone took responsibility for their thinking patterns, for the way that they feel, and for the way that they react to another person. Imagine a world where instead of getting angry at someone else when they're yelling at you or doing whatever, you take a sit back and go, wow, I really wonder what they've been through in order to really feel like that against me. And start to look at them with compassion and understanding. What would that world be like? Would that world still dislike people and still hate? Or would that world look always for the understanding in the point? Would that world be loving and compassionate? Would that world still lock up our children in prisons? Those who represent some of our deepest, darkest secrets? Or would it strive for the understanding, the reason behind the behavior? I want you to think for a minute. Think about a time when you felt loved, when you felt understood, when you felt someone took the time to really see you and hear you and deal with you compassionately. And I want you to think about a world where that's the norm. Thank you.